guys, what is going on? Welcome to this week's breakdown for the Northern Trust, the first event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. So pretty excited. Liberty National is a really cool golf course. Got some really neat views of New York City and the skyline and all of that fun. So pretty pumped up about that. I think, it'll be a lot of fun. You can see some of that here. I'm on their website, just checking out the course layout. But before we get into that, maybe just two updates. So one, don't really want to talk about the Wyndham Championship. If you tailed any of that, you were also probably thrown into a state of depression from one Russell Henley. So I had to pick myself back up from that, basically leading through 60 some holes and just fell apart on the back nine. Couldn't make a 2-foot putt, couldn't make a 4-foot putt. It was a complete disaster. And Kevin Kisner ended up winning in a 6-man playoff. We're just going to put that one out of sight, out of mind. I think I was joking last week about how, in 2020, I got burned at the Wyndham Championship by Jim Herman. And this year it was Russell Henley collapsing down the stretch. So out of sight, out of mind. We're on to the next one. So Northern Trust, going to get this, update 2. Going to get this out in 2 pieces this week instead of maybe 3. So today we're going to go through course breakdown, key stats. I've already queued up a model. I have some insight around the betting board, some initial lean, some guys that I've already bet. And then on Wednesday, we'll do kind of the full Draftkings breakdown, look at ownership, strategy, talk through my final betting card for the week. So that's the game plan. So this week, we have the Northern Trust, again, the first event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. It's held at Liberty National this year. Last year, it was at TPC Boston. So don't look at just blind course history or event history. You got to sync it up with the course that they're playing on. So in 2019, this event was played at Liberty National. So the idea is essentially at the end of the day, we want guys that are accurate and good with kind of mid-range long irons. Maybe slight emphasis around the green. So if you kind of look at the course breakdown, so it's a par 71. We got 3 par 5s. It is pretty long, so it's about 7,400 yards. And if you look through this, there is a lot of crap off the fairway. So some tall fescue, some pretty difficult rough. So if you're hitting it into that consistently, you're going to have a rough go. But obviously some distance off the tee is going to go a long way. So kind of balancing the off the tee game a little bit. So we'll look at that with respect to the model, but it's a pretty long course. If we jump over to the course breakdown, you'll see that, there are some birdie holes, but definitely par on some of these holes is going to be good as well. And the par 5s, they do have the potential to make eagles. Those are going to be where you need to get your birdies. There's some shorter par 4s, but at the end of the day, gaining on par 4s is going to be the name of the game this week. And you got to do it through approach. You got to do it with putting. So this week we're on bent grass greens. So we'll look at some guys that are good in that space. You got to gain a little bit around the green as well. So this has one of the lower, if I jump down to, so our green in regulation percentage is roughly 6 points, 10% lower than your typical PGA Tour event. So, and again, if you miss greens, there are some, pretty challenging hazards. The rough is not super conducive. It's not going to be easy if you hit it in there. So, got to make sure that that's happening. But the scrambling percentage is a bit easier than your normal event. So, got that working for you as well. So, a little emphasis on around the green this week. In terms of hole-by-hole breakdown, we got 5 par 4s between 450 to 500, so we're going to put some weight on that. We got 3 par 4s between 400 and 450 yards. How that translates into approach shots. So for a lot of the shorter guys, they're going to be hitting 200 plus quite often. I'm looking at kind of 175 to 200, 200 plus. But you also see that you have, again, just given the nature of this course, if you do miss a fairway, it's going to be tough to hit the green and on your next shot. So this 125 to 150 range is also kind of interesting if you're looking at any of the key proximity stats for the week. So yeah, name of the game, got to be accurate, helps to have some distance, and we're going to want to find guys who make some putts. In terms of the, let's see, where am I going here? So let's just look at the leaderboard from 2020. So, because I do think there's some interesting things that pop out. Sorry, 2019 when this event was played here. So again, par 71. So Patrick Reed won it. Abe Ancer, who was our hero 2 weeks ago, he finished second. Harold Varner third. You got a lot of big names here at the top as well. Obviously, I do think this is a good week to kind of, and again, I think the odds board reflects this. You don't want to go too crazy. So for me, I'm living in that like 20 to 40 range for almost all of my bets, sans maybe a handful of guys in that like 60 to 70 range, and maybe I'll take one stab down the board. We'll look at that individual in a second, who I'm eyeing up for that. But you can see almost everyone gained an approach. The top three guys all gained around the green. And the difference for Patrick Reed in 2019 was really the putter. So this is what we're looking at. You got to gain off the tee as well. So unless you're Louis gaining 9 strokes on approach, you got to gain off the tee. So I've constructed an initial model reflecting all of this. So what I have in here, obviously strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach all over the last 24 rounds, opportunities gained as well, breaking down driving distance into fairways, still playing with the weights in the model. So, don't read too much into this yet, but we'll continue to tweak that as well. Got strokes gained putting on bent grass over the last 50 rounds, our key proximity distances, our par 4 efficiency, and I'm not weighting it, but I'm looking at it. So strokes gained tee to green on comp courses. So not everyone has enough rounds that I want to put a lot of weight on it. So like as an example, only, for Paul Casey as an example, sorry, he's not a good example. Yeah, some of these guys don't have many rounds. So anyway, we don't need to find an example of that. Just know that that's true. So anyway, how this shakes out, again, no surprise here. Your ball strikers are at the top. Paul Casey, Colin Morikawa. Morikawa is kind of interesting to me because, well, his odds aren't great, but he lost on approach, which never happens. You really have to go pretty far back to find an example of that, but I do think it's a little concerning. It's not necessarily to say he's in bad form or anything like that, but it's something that I do think we should keep an eye on. I don't know how likely he is to win this thing in general, but bent grass is his best putting surface. I'm just not sure I'm there yet on Morikawa. The price is pretty steep. His odds, I think, are, he's 16 to 1. So again, it's not to say you can't do it, but something we gotta prioritize a little bit. So Paul Casey, I think, is interesting. He's 38 to 1. If you look at the this is something we haven't shown on here before, but the True Strokes Gain tool on Data Golf. So Paul Casey is actually third in the last 3 months in strokes gained tee to green, and this is all adjusted for strength of field. So what you're not getting on Fantasy National, he's actually number 1 at approach in that time period. So Paul Casey is someone who is interesting to me at 38 to 1. Someone I'll be taking a really close look at. Seamus Power has been just playing really well. Again, this is not adjusted for strength of field. I don't know if we can get here in a FedEx Cup playoff event to bet outright, but might be a solid fantasy play. The next range I'm really looking closely at. So Cantlay, Keegan is, I think, 120 to 1. I took a small stab on him because he's rating out so well in the model. Bent grass is his best putting surface, but that's not saying much. He's not a good putter. Thought I'd take a shot there. But Cantlay rating out really well. These greens are pretty small, and he has you kind of want a well-rounded golfer this week. So Patrick Cantlay, maybe on my card. I think he's like 30 to 1 in that range. Abe Ancer, I don't know what to do with. So he finished second the last time this event was played. I think, you don't like to maybe back guys coming right off a win, but at the same time, it's entirely possible that, Harris English held on and he had a solid top 5 finish at the WGC, and you'd be saying, oh, look at the great form he's in. He's right there. He's knocking on the door. So from that perspective, can he win back-to-back events? I think it's a tall order, especially in, these strong fields. But he's rating out really well, and he had a week to settle down after the win. He's a guy I could see going back to. Shane Lowry's rating out really well. One bet I did make, and again, Some of this is just, again, a little bit of comp course, a little bit of kind of eye test. I think there's a value here on Brooks this week. So he is, I believe, 22-1. And the next guy I also bet, Justin Thomas at 25. Brooks is not necessarily going to pop in the models per se, but he is a decent bent grass putter. He's won, if you kind of look at some of the comp courses, he's played really well. And Liberty National is kind of Lynx style-ish. And the Open Championship where he won Royal St. George's, like, there's a comp there, I think. So I think there's an aspect that Brooks might fly under the radar. He didn't play well at the St. Jude, which is a little surprising, but before that, really strong finishes. So I kind of like the idea, and he was gaining on approach, gaining off the tee, so I kind of like the idea going there. The other guy that I like in this range, so obviously, like, you can't go wrong with a lot of these guys. Spieth, Hovland, they're all kind of on my short list. But the other guy that I bet, because I just think it's too short, so Justin Thomas, again, he's not rating out as well as some of the other guys in the model, but I was able to get a 28-1 number on him, and he finished second tee to green here in 2019. So again, if you're looking for a well-rounded golfer who, can dial it in on an approach, can, help himself by getting it up and down, plays well on the long par fours, I think Justin Thomas is a really strong value this week. Other guys that I think are interesting, so Rory's rating out really well. Look at the strokes gained on Rory for a second in terms of approach over the last however many events. 6.5, don't have data at the Open Championship. 4.5, 4, 4.3, 5.3. He's been really dialed in with the irons. Just comes down to the putter. And that's the thing that I think is going to hold him back a little bit. Bent grass is his worst surface. I could totally see it. He's trending in the right direction. I just don't know if I can get there on Rory, but I probably will have some in fantasy. The other guy that I will probably add to my card, though, so again, I have maybe 3-4 guys I've already bet. I'll probably add 2 more in that like 30-1 kind of range or so. Daniel Berger is rating out really well as well, and he gained 9, I think, strokes on approach at the St. Jude. Just lost some around the green. He made a run, but played well at the U.S. Open, gained consistently on approach for a while. The thing, he doesn't have as much distance as some of these other guys, but that may be okay because he's a bit more accurate. So I think Daniel Berger's really interesting. And the last guy that I think could be a little sneaky this week, Jason Kokrak. So he won at Shadow Creek at the end of last year, the CJ Cup. There's some comp course aspect to this as well, and he's a guy that's just, dialed in, long approach, really good. The thing that'll hold him back, he's a little wild off the tee sometimes. He did miss the cut at the Wyndham, so I want to take a quick look at that. I don't know if that's loaded in here yet or not. Yeah, so he did lose basically across the board in 2 rounds. That's right after losing at the St. Jude. But again, like, he's 65-1, so you don't have to take, you're not paying a premium on him. So I think it's worth a shot on Kokrak this week. And the last guy I'll mention, just in terms of my quick breakdown here, Scottie Scheffler. So he's played really well in all of these really strong events. So he, not maybe the greatest putter, that's kind of hit or miss, but when he gains a ton. So like at the U.S. Open as an example, gained 9 strokes putting, gained 2.5 strokes on approach at the St. Jude, has played well on comp courses, not afraid of these big events either. So again, it might be a tall order to ask of a guy to get his first win. Like, there's no reason to me that Scottie Scheffler and guys like Patrick Cantlay, Patrick Reed should have the same odds. So for me, I may stay away from that perspective. Like, again, 28-1 Scheffler versus 30-1 Cantlay. I'll probably go Cantlay, but he's definitely worth a shot, right? Certainly from a DraftKings perspective, because he's going to make a ton of birdies, but I don't know. I just don't understand the pricing on Scheffler. Like, I would be all in if he were, priced with guys like Tony Finau, right? Like, Scottie Scheffler hasn't won, neither is Finau. Why are we paying half the odds for him? So, anyway, that's my quick breakdown. Again, wanted to get this out there a little bit. Wanted to make sure you guys had some visibility to my initial thoughts because I'm not able to do a video tomorrow. But I'll let you know where I land in terms of the final model on Wednesday, where I land in terms of my betting card. We'll talk Draftkings strategy and ownership and all of that fun. And yeah, stay tuned for more from me. And as always, if you learned something, if you like the content, like the video, subscribe to my channel. Shout outs in the comments, always much appreciated. Sorry again if you were burned, guys, by Patrick Cantlay, or not Patrick Cantlay. If you were burned by Russell Henley last week, that was not super fun, but we can all cry together, I guess. So anyway, hopefully this week's a little bit better for us. So as always, thanks for the support. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk soon. Thanks, guys.